Welcome to Special Registration Deputy Training. This is a training required to be deputized to register voters in the City of Madison. As a deputy, you must go through training every 2 years. Your term will expire in December of the even-numbered year, and you'll have to go through training all over again to be deputized for another term. Deputies cannot be paid per registration form that they collect. This is required by state law, so there are no fraudulent forms collected. Registration forms must be legible, and we request that if you register somebody who writes a little sloppily on their form, that you verify with them what the form should say, and then neatly print the relevant information on the form. This allows us to get the voter on the registration form. This allows us to get the voter on the poll list with the correct spelling of their name, so on election day they can vote without any trouble. Completed application forms need to be submitted to the city clerk's office within 3 days of you collecting those forms. If you do not follow this requirement, your deputization will be terminated by the city clerk's office. Deputies are allowed to register voters during the time frame that registration is considered to be open. And this open registration closes at 5 p.m. the third Wednesday before each election. Any registrations received from the deputies after 5 p.m. cannot be processed and will not be on the poll list. The voters are counting on you to get the registration forms handed in so their names will be on the poll list and they can vote on election day. So if you do not follow this deadline, your deputization will be terminated by the clerk's office. When registration is closed, voters still are able to register to vote, but they have to at that point register in the city clerk's office or on election day at their own polling place. Now we're going to walk through the voter registration form step by step. The first section of the form asks which municipality the voter resides in. And we do have a number of voters who have a mailing address that says Verona or Middleton. But as long as their municipality is the City of Madison, you will collect those forms and get them to the city clerk's office and indicate that it's a City of Madison registration. The sections of the form that are required to be completed will have an arrow along the side, and if those sections are not completed, we are unable to process the form. So the first mandatory section would be section 2, asking for an ID number. If the voter has a current and valid Wisconsin driver's license, they must list that number on the registration form. This is required by the Help America Vote Act. The driver's license number is not optional. If they have a current and valid license, they must write the number down. If the voter does not have a current and valid Wisconsin driver's license number, then they can list the last 4 digits of their Social Security number or their state ID card number. If the voter has a driver's license from a different state, then they must list the last 4 digits of their Social Security number. A driver's license from Minnesota or Illinois does not help us in the city clerk's office because behind the scenes, the state voter registration system is verifying the voter's identity by checking the numbers that the voter writes down on their form with the data on file at the Department of Transportation or the Social Security Administration. It's verifying the voter's name, their ID number, and their date of birth. Next, the voter will write his or her name on the registration form. And because of that check that's done behind the scenes, we encourage the voter to write his or her name as it appears on the identifying document they listed above. The voter then lists his or her date of birth, and this is the most common problem we find on our registration forms. They'll either leave that section blank, or they'll write in today's date as their date of birth, or they'll write their date of birth but with the current year. And anybody born in the current year is not old enough to vote. So that's something you want to double check as the voter is completing the form. Next, the voter will list his or her street address in the City of Madison, And be sure to check for apartment number if somebody's registering for an apartment address, or if you know that they live in the dorms. That unit number is important because once we process registrations, we send postcards to the voters to verify that they live where they say they do. If it comes back as undeliverable, we have to cancel their registration. So it's very important that this information be complete. The mailing address is not necessary, and email and phone number are optional, but they're helpful to the clerk's office if there's any missing information or if there's any item on the form that we can't decipher. We'll contact the voter to make sure we have everything correct. If the voter had been registered to vote but changed his or her name, they would list their previous name in Section 6 and their current name at the top of the form. We will find their old registration and update it to their new name. If the voter had been registered to vote anywhere else in the country, whether it was elsewhere in Madison or in a different state, they should list their previous address, and we will cancel that other registration. Sometimes the voter will move and can't remember their old address, but if they at least list the municipality, that really helps us. We want to make sure somebody isn't registered to vote in 2 locations, and we also want to make sure we're not erroneously canceling somebody's voter registration thinking it's the same person when it's not. So if a voter is homeless, they can still register to vote. They have to pick a location that they intend to return to at the end of each night, and they can draw a diagram to indicate where that could be. It would be the intersection of 2 streets, or it could be in front of a landmark, the library or the Madison Municipal Building. But they have to indicate something so we know which poll book to put the voter on. There's a section that's often overlooked, that's Section 9. It must be completed. It's asking if the voter is a United States citizen and if the voter will be 18 or older as of Election Day. Next, the voter reads to ensure that they are qualified to vote, that they've lived at their address for at least 10 days before the election, and if they've been convicted of a felony, that they've completed the terms of their sentence, including probation or parole. Once they've completed the terms of their sentence, they are eligible to register and vote again. Then the applicant signs and dates the registration form in your presence, and you are the official. So you sign in the box that says official signature, and next to that, print your name and your special registration deputy number. You'll receive this number when you complete the certification form on our website and send it to our office. We will then mail you a card to prove that you're deputized to register voters, and it will give you a number to print on each registration form. There is some confidential information on the voter registration form. It would be the driver's license number, state ID card number, social security number, date of birth, and any indication that the voter needs an accommodation at the polling place, if they need wheelchair access or if they need a braille ballot. But something to keep in mind is that all of our polling places are accessible to voters. As a deputy, you may not retain any of this confidential information. If you make copies of the registration forms that you have completed, you must redact any of this confidential information. Once you submit your completed form to the clerk's office, we will quickly send you your deputization card. And remember, this is good only for the City of Madison. If you want to register voters in another municipality, you'll have to be deputized by that municipal clerk or through the Government Accountability Board to register voters statewide. Thank you.